Oh, well, this is exciting.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, it's been a huge journey. We've been working together for a while. Why don't you just tell everyone really quick, what do you do? How did you get into this position? How did TikTok Shop fall on your plate?
So I've been with Philips for 8 years. For the first about 6.5, I was a director of sales for Amazon. And after that journey, I was ready for something new, and in discussing with where we were going as a company, really felt like there was more in the social commerce marketplace, and jumped into business development. And prior to that, I was at Amazon for 13 years. So have had about 20 years of Amazon experience.
Lots of experience.
I think taking that and being able to understand e-commerce and applying it to TikTok really helped.
Yeah, I mean, it's way different, but that experience definitely applied for sure. As my team can attest, we've learned a lot from you through that process. So kind of just going on how, like the discussion around taking Philips on TikTok Shop, what was that process like internally? Were you guys looking at data to make that decision? Mm-hmm. Was it kind of a collective group of people that were trying to chase that problem? How did you guys justify, making that investment worth it?
Yeah. So I think just the data spoke for itself. There are 150 million users in the US on TikTok.
So many.
And I think it's now up to 194 million. So we started on this journey. I met Trig in January of 2024, right after I had taken the role of business development, and learned a lot about what Pattern could do. And from that, really started understanding, wow, like this is where customers are at. They're spending 95 minutes a day. So it's a lot of time where users are.
Don't tell everyone that.
Right. My kids can demonstrate that for you. But really what we saw was that this is the platform where young people are spending a lot of time, and we wanted to be where the customer was at. It kind of was back like in my days starting at Amazon. Like a lot of retailers didn't feel like they wanted to move into that space, but it's all about being where the customer was at. And I think what really resonated for us was the younger audience. TikTok has 71% of their users are under the age of 34. So that, in comparison to our top 4 accounts, probably a lot like you and your top 4 accounts, that only is about 29%. So 71% on TikTok. It's really where you can grab that new customer base.
Yeah, and it's harder to do that on the other channels where you're already mature. There's already a lot of marketing effort there. So TikTok was probably a very green field.
Yeah.
And in terms of new customer.
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone who's live on Shop in here now? I can't see anyone because that light is insanely bright, but
yeah.
Okay, so there's like maybe a few. So that's great actually, because maybe a lot of you are here to be like, should I do this? Should I not do it? Mm-hmm. Going live on Shop it takes a lot of kind of unexpected work, I would say, for brands. And there's a lot of demands that come from even just standing up the store, getting comfortable with the way that the marketing works. So when you were looking at figuring out who to partner with, how did you make that decision? Were you guys evaluating whether you're going to kind of do it internally using a TSP or a TikTok Shop partner? Or, I'm sure Philips has like 10 plus agencies that they already work with in other capacities. What was that decision-making process like?
Well, I think the first thing we recognized that we were not the experts in making content as it relates to affiliates. And we didn't really want to step in. That was not really our skill set as far as really taking on the management of affiliates and all of the content that goes behind that. So that was, I think, the big differentiator. And just learning about all of Pattern's capabilities, I think really what intrigued us is like, I could kind of run with this, honestly. Like you guys supported the end-to-end that that helped, because just even getting you onboarded as a customer and having you be able to take on the setup of TikTok and just the end-to-end support from the management of that content as well as the media. It's almost as if I was able to take like TikTok and kind of run with it. And while I had a lot of support internally, there was so much that you were supporting on your side, it really helped. And even down to processing of the orders and the delivery, the last mile delivery. So it really was an opportunity for us to, again, be where the customer was at. And the key managers at Philips, they were all very supportive from the get-go. And I think just because of the efficiencies and the speed to market that we're able to demonstrate through Pattern was a big input.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I don't even know if we did that good of a job. It was like, I mean, it was all so new, right? I mean, frankly, it was still kind of new for TikTok, super new for you, and it was new-ish for Pattern. But that's yields for a very fun time and learning and figuring it out. Was there any, like in those decisions, you mentioned support internally, maybe there are people in the room here that are trying to champion TikTok Shop internally. How did you get buy-off? Was there any doubters? Was there anything that really kind of pushed that through, or was it just kind of everyone was supportive and excited to go?
I think probably the one question was, will it really deliver as a sales channel? And I think we learned along the way that it does, but it also really is that upper funnel activation channel too. Yeah. So there was a question whether we would see it as a successful sales channel along with all of our other retailers that we love. But again, I think just knowing the opportunity to be able to reach a new customer was really compelling.
Yeah. So I guess tying into that kind of new customer question, was that the primary KPI? How did you? I remember going through with the team early on, like what is our like benchmark or milestone? It was hard to figure out like what is that going to be. There was no really comp in the market for a brand your size in your category, maybe in any category, frankly. And so walk people through how you've decided on some of those early KPIs and milestones for launching.
Yeah, and I think as we looked at how our activation managers think about media and what are they doing to really drive that awareness of Philips brands and products, they're measuring impressions and glance views and traffic and conversion and CPM. And so we took all of that in consideration of how we would think about TikTok as just another activation channel. And then on the flip side, we certainly looked at it from a sales and
of course.
How much are we going to be selling into Pattern to support the sales, looking at the profitability, and then overall what was the investment that was required to be able to test it out. And I think that's the thing. You just need to jump in, and you may not have all the answers right away, but honestly was in comparison to what we spend in other channels, it was a very efficient test. And it proved to be pretty successful. I mean, we started this path basically about February, March of 2024, and we launched in the end of June. Yeah. I remember having some discussions with Trenton on July 4th weekend, and he was helping us get launched. So to launch on TikTok in less than 6 months at a company our size was pretty amazing. Yeah,
it was definitely a heroic effort on both sides.
It was.
And sometimes that is what it requires to do these things, but it's an interesting channel to measure because you still have brands today that spend, I don't know what the rough numbers are on TikTok. I think it's like over 30 billion just on media promoting on the channel for top of funnel. Mm-hmm. And now you have this layer of TikTok Shop where you actually can see sales coming through, and it just makes it such a different channel where both of those are coexisting. So I guess kind of speaking to that, how it's a different channel, what would you say the key learning, either operationally, marketing wise, from launching on Shop has been so far? Or learnings, maybe
learnings
we could do
overall.
more on one.
Yeah, I think just kind of going back to my Amazon days, starting with the customer and really understanding why are customers spending 95 minutes a day on the channel. They're not necessarily there coming in, shopping like they do on Amazon. They're coming to be entertained.
Yeah.
So it's a different mindset of how we would be approaching them. And so I think that all goes to the point of the way that you speak to customers on TikTok is very different than what you do on Amazon or other marketplaces. You are using customers to speak on your behalf.
Yeah.
And that's a very, I would say, somewhat uncomfortable position for marketers to be in, where they're normally very, very thoughtful, of course, about their
Are you
brand.
calling them control freaks or something?
No, but I mean, they spend a lot of time on the voice of the brand and how they want to position the products. And so we balance that out with recognizing the fact that you're dealing with affiliates. You can't control everything that they do. You can certainly influence it. And so I think from that understanding, how do we try to navigate kind of releasing, letting the reins kind of be a little bit looser so that affiliates could go out, they could understand, all the same things that you'd want to highlight on Amazon, product attributes, what are the benefits and features of the products, but then also in the content brief that we worked with the marketing teams on, making sure that we had very specific understanding if there were, the do's and the don'ts. Do not speak to XYZ if your product didn't support it. So really making it clear so that affiliates had a better understanding of what could they speak about and not be too demonstrative to things that weren't actualized.
I think that's probably the biggest area of education. Our team spends a lot of time on that specific topic. I think TikTok's probably in here too somewhere. You guys want to raise your hand just so people will say hi to you? Hey, what's up? I mean, I just think of just the number of calls we collectively have together, and then the ones on our own. That is the topic, right? Is, hey, what's going to happen if an affiliate does this? What's going to happen if an affiliate does that? What are the steps? What is the process? Why don't we just kind of echoing your learning there of you have to let some of that creative control go, and also kind of have. I think another way that you're saying it is like, you can't come with a ton of expectations on exactly which content's gonna work, right? It's like a volume game. You do not know which one's gonna be the hit. Occasionally it's a non-obvious video that's gonna hit. So why don't we throw up a couple of these videos, not actually throw up, but we'll put one up. So just quickly, this is a top 3 ranked video, period, on the platform during that time frame.
And these things are usually $40. Right now, they're literally $25 on the TikTok shop. I'll use this over a blade any day of the week because no cuts, doesn't leave my skin all dry. It just makes shaving actually enjoyable and super fast. So $25, I'll never use anything else ever again. I'll put the link down there. They're selling out fast. Get them quick.
Awesome. Let's do the next one.
One coochie to another. This is the razor we're using this summer. I don't use this anymore because it makes me red and irritated. Ingrown hairs, issues. I started using this last year. You can use it in the shower, dry, wet, whatever. It gets so close to your skin without aggravating your skin the way a regular blade does. I don't break out on my bikini line when I use this. I do not get ingrown hairs anymore. I don't know the last time I got one. And that shit is smooth. Also, when it starts to grow out, it's not uncomfortable when you wear leggings, if you know what I mean. Especially if you have thick, dark hair, that can get uncomfortable. Not with this bit. Okay, I'm gonna go shave now. I'll let you know.
Awesome. Let's pause on that one 'cause it's awesome.
Okay, if any of you do not have a One Blade 360 and the Intimate, you gotta go get it.
Yes.
I have all of the pattern team convinced, but I think those are, first of all, that first one was the top 3rd ranked video during that period, which was really exciting. And the Intimate it's an intimate product. Do you think our marketing team was planning to put a naked woman in the shower, with the Intimate? Probably not, but it speaks to the highlights of what everybody needs in that type of a product, and she's really authentic. And I think that's what works. And so feeling comfortable enough that, you've got your product has to speak for itself, I think, but then letting the voice of the customer really resonate. It's like customer reviews on Amazon amplified. It's really customers talking to customers.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good analogy, which is like it's a video of a review, right? It's someone speaking authentically to their story and even having fun with it. I mean, just like random raise of hands, would you rather see like a TV ad of the intimate or that, right? Like that's
It's entertaining,
real, right?
and
That's like
that's-
entertaining, kind of funny, like you're definitely gonna like stop scrolling and be like, what is going on in this video?
And I think to tag onto that is we have more than 10,000 videos. So we don't have, nor would we want to look at every single video and pre-approve it. It's just not scalable. So again, I think that knowing the confidence too, as far as the TikTok team, they have their own guardrails. They have their rules, and affiliates are going to be disincentivized if they, have disclaimers out there that are not factual. They'll be either taken down or, deranked. So I think there's guardrails to feel comfortable in between working with Pattern in how I know that Sinclair, Adam spent a ton of time like working with the affiliates, having that, discussion and the guidance that they're giving them. And so that's time, that's expertise that your team has that can really drive that with the affiliates. And then you have the backing of TikTok team to really help as well. If something does go right, then we're on calls together, and not only the support that they give as far as I call it the triangle of the brand, Pattern, as well as TikTok as a platform as well.
Yeah, and I think as long as all those parties, which in our case, it's very easy to align quickly on any situation that comes up. I think we were talking before this, and the example that I was giving is like, well, if you and I could just make a video right now and say whatever we want and post it, the caveat is like the monetization component of it, right? That there's a shoppable link on it, that there may be commission paid. And TikTok is actually quite excellent at policing that, if you want to call it, of any issue that does come up there, and removing content if it has to be, or just demonetizing it, or removing reach. And so I would say all brands that go live on TikTok start with this concern, and then it just slowly goes away because they realize, one, it's very rare where there's an issue that comes up. You would agree with that, right? It's just not that common. And then two, if it does happen, it's like very quick algorithmic action that occurs, or processes and communication that can cycle through.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. Please, we will save that little bracket for questions, because if you guys have any follow-ups, we'd love to answer them. Is there anything, like a big thing that surprised you about how TikTok Shop works, like the actual mechanisms of the platform?
I think we highlighted it before, but you can't predict what's going to work. And I would say the amount of content. Like, I remember going in on this journey, it's like content is king, content is king. So you think that that's another reason to have someone supporting you, is that the amount of videos that need to be created and then kind of fueling that is really an important factor. I think what we've learned also, as far as like the time it takes a little bit to really get the amount of videos up, and then layering on the media to really get the flywheel going. So I think that was, it's not immediate, get it up and go, but then it can take off really quickly. Yeah. And that leads into trying to make sure you have the right inventory, which is
the spikiness
of the channel can be amazing and surprising, but it also can catch you off guard with how successful it can be.
It is funny, like the spikiness, I feel like catches people off guard even more because of that occasional kind of slow burn at ramp, or like you're starting a new channel. There's also just like the practical nature of we have to reach out to a bunch of human beings that have schedules, that have time. They need to make content for us. We have to ship them a product. Many times we do. So it's like that's like 7 days. Whereas if you jump on Google or Meta, like I could have an ad campaign running in 2 minutes if I can remember my password. So it's like it's very quick compared to some of these other marketing motions, or very, very slow compared to some of these other marketing motions. But then as soon as it goes, there's a little bit of an uncontrolled burn to it, where like videos like this happen. you and I maybe would see this video in a typical influencer campaign and be like, I don't know, maybe it'll get like 10,000 views. It's like 9 million views.
Yeah.
So the forecasting on that is really, really hard. So you were alluding to like kind of the inventory challenge of that. How, like, one, how did you handle that and was continuing to handle it? We were just talking about it and planning for already Q4. How would you give advice to brands on this channel? Because it is so different related to inventory.
Yeah, I think that to start off with, I would work with fewer SKUs. Like, because of the amount of content that you need to create per product and then all of that investment, it is helpful to focus on, we focused on our hero SKUs that we wanted to get behind. And it definitely took off. We saw the unfortunate thing is we were out of stock because it was those 2 SKUs that we just showed you were selling really well nationally. So then you get the effect of not only us overselling some of the other accounts as well. So I would.
It's a good product.
It's a great product. So it's a good problem to have, I guess. But I would recommend going lean on fewer SKUs is better, which you told me that from the beginning. And
I'm sure TikTok told me that.
Yeah.
Probably not that smart.
And as you start looking to see, you're measuring not only. We were looking on a weekly basis to look at glance views and sales and looking at that continually to see kind of like to try to read the signals of traffic and expect that with increases of sales. But we had to pretty quickly ramp up our forecast. It was like just lean in because we didn't want to be out of stock because it took like 5 weeks to get back in. And so it's the worst offender on Amazon. It's the worst offender on TikTok too. When you're in that mode of really successful selling, to have it be unavailable. So while you get back into stock, then you've lost that velocity. Takes some time to ramp up.
Yeah, it's interesting to comp it to another marketplace because it almost feels more penalizing because if those that are live on Shop probably know this, but the affiliates have transparency to your stock level. So a large affiliate can be like, you have 100 units? I'm gonna smoke this thing. Like, I'm not gonna post about this. Like, there's no way, we're gonna run out. And so you have that component along with the kind of uncapped, like, I don't know how many people are gonna buy this exactly. So we've been advising brands now to just lean in heavier until we can get to that forecasted amount. The other thing that we've learned a lot, I would say, from TikTok and our experience doing some of these campaigns is they work. And so you have, like, buy up, be prepared for some of these campaigns. TikTok is very, very effective running traffic to those campaigns that you opt into. And we've, occasionally have gotten sideways on some of those because there was more demand than we expected, right?
Yeah.
And
so also, I would, just to add to that as well, I would be thoughtful about what are you running nationally, because that also has a positive impact on what we're seeing on TikTok. So thinking holistically about your promotional schedule as well as your marketing overall is really important too.
Yeah. I mean, that is like anyone who attended Dave's breakout, the founder, the whole Trend Vision product, a lot of what we're trying to solve, that pattern is like, we've now seen this many times where something is popping off on TikTok and then we'll go out of stock on Amazon. And the only variable is that there's some crazy video or packet of videos going with a lot of views on TikTok. So we're trying to study that again to try to help with these forecasts. So the flow from there would be navigating a P&L that's very spiky like this with promotional calendar, affiliate commissions. It's so different than another channel. Tell people how you manage that and how it's different.
So yeah, the different components from funding that you need to be aware of is the sampling. It's the media that goes behind it that you're going to layer on, as well as commissions. So you're accounting for all of that, as well as if you put anything on promotion for funding there. But we look at that, so going into it, we looked at it again as an activation channel versus a sales channel. And ultimately, the way that we consider it is the overall profitability, how much we're investing in total versus the sales that we're generating from it. And taking that A&P, the amount of advertising funding that you're providing in totality, all contributions versus sales, we're using that to measure how does that compare versus our other channels. And while TikTok is a little bit more expensive, I think that the fact is we're only accounting for the sales that we're generating. We're not at this point quite yet accounting for the halo effect that we know is happening on Amazon. So in the first slide, the 59% of people that are on TikTok that are going to buy on Amazon, we assume that would happen because we know so many people have their account set up, they trust Amazon for that fulfillment, but again, you're driving that discoverability through TikTok. So there was definitely a level of appetite to test it because they knew the effect it would have on new customer acquisition. But ultimately, that's something that we're managing on a monthly basis just to make sure things are in line. And the one thing I would say, though, as far as looking at all the different levels of contributions, the media investment that we put through goes 100% directly to what is spent on TikTok. So Pattern's not taking the non-media working that ends up happening with a lot of other agencies. So it's a very efficient spend. Yeah,
and super transparent. And it is very, very efficient. I think one of the things we were talking about too, it is a lot of times people, especially on TikTok, for this new audience that you're targeting, this is maybe the first, maybe the second time they've seen this product. Many of us have had that experience, right? We see something and then we'll end up going and searching for it later, or we go trying to look for the best price. This is like not strange behavior, and it's hard to capture all of that. So like one way to view it is like whatever TikTok's reporting, that's about as the worst it could be, right? Like it's not going to be any worse than that. So that's awesome. So there's a bunch of brands in the room that are kind of maybe going back and forth on whether they should do shop. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them based on this experience?
I would definitely recommend it. It's been a very influential learning for us, and that ability to be able to capture. I mean, we were closely watching the effect it was having because everybody was asking, is this driving incrementality? And the answer is yes. Like we saw continued uptick on Amazon, if not even higher than where they were trending previously to launching on TikTok. And I think just the fact that we were recognizing that a large share of those customers are discovering our brand and our products because of the platform that TikTok provides.
Yeah. Has that influenced at all, like, I guess, other product marketing, product development in the company at all? Like some of these insights?
Yeah, and actually, like I said, we started with our hero products, which was, I think, the right thing to do. Now we're looking at 2026 new product introductions, and we're really taking a step that we want to leverage TikTok at the onset. We want to bring TikTok in as like our pairing of what we would want to do on a new product launch to drive that visibility and awareness. So it's going from kind of taking the best of the best and bringing TikTok in on the early onset of the marketing efforts.
Yeah, that's really good. TikTok's probably pumped to hear that. It's one of their like key things they're always telling us as well, which is, okay, if we can have product exclusive for a while, for a period, new product launches, they love to kind of co-invest behind those types of projects. So if any brands are in the room thinking that way or trying to launch a new product, inside of the brand, I think all those are really, awesome ideas. I don't know, what is it? What is this clock now? This is the Q&A clock?
We're good. I think we're getting close.
We did it?
I think the only other thing I would add, and it's unique depending on what type of product that you have, but I mean, you saw 2 products from our Norelco that do incredibly well. I think an interesting point in what you can demonstrate on TikTok is kind of that before and after. So where the guy is shaving, you see the before and the after within the 10 seconds of the video. So you're seeing like an immediate effect. So it definitely presents a different opportunity to show product in motion versus just a campaign that you may have. So again, I think that stretching not only what's going to be talked about a bit, but also using it as more of kind of a QVC, like a real product display, it provides a different level of engagement with customers and education, and a quick way to be able to really, when it comes, we're thinking about some big new product launches, how are we going to leverage TikTok and come up with a strategy that's going to be specific to TikTok to be able to really get credit for all of the great things about the product and how we demonstrate it through the videos.
I'm pumped for 2026. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's do some Q&A with the audience. Thank you. We've got
Thank
a
you so
mic.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, let's open up to questions. Yeah.
Hi, I was really inspired by listening to your talk because we are a more niche brand than razors or possibly toothbrushes or whatever Philips might sell, and definitely not an impulse purchase. However, we're owned by a very large company comparable to the size of Philips, and we are pretty risk averse, I'd say, when it comes to taking risks on TikTok and with affiliates with what they're going to say, and not sure how we control the brand. And we really ran into some hurdles with legal. And so I'm curious how you had those conversations and how you were able to overcome kind of perhaps a large company risk when it comes to letting the affiliates kind of say whatever they want.
Hurdles with legal? Never heard of it.
Yeah, I know.
I think it really goes back to aligning on the fact that we had the support of TikTok to be able to pull down videos if necessary, and really some tight guardrails around what we provided to the affiliates. And the reality is, like, there's nothing preventing anyone, from creating a video. So I think that while we all love control and think that we can manage that marketing voice, I think that the reality is that those affiliates they're not incentivized to go outside the guardrails that you provide. So I think from the legalese, like, honestly, a lot of that was passed over to Pattern.
Yeah, it's not there's like structurally, the risk is low already. And if a problem comes up, there are very like tight solutions for it. I would tell you that like any hardcore legal person at a large brand will still not accept that, and that's okay. But I think giving them kind of the waterfall of all the steps that you can take and the things that are already in place. I also think just reminding the legal person that like you could go on TikTok right now and make a like terrible video about our brand. We couldn't do anything, and it could get 10 million views. Like that could happen today, and there's no one to call. There's nothing we could do, and so
It is a free marketplace.
Yeah, it's like
so
what?
Even though they've got the good intent, I think that it goes back to if there are specific areas that you absolutely know that there are claims, we've got claims. And so we are very clear with what they cannot say versus what they can say. And I think that helps get reinforced by the Pattern team when they're in discussions with the affiliates. But again, I think that looking at the upside certainly outweighs the risk.
Yeah, and I would say get the legal team to participate in the brief, like the original brief, give them a seat at the table. They tend to want to leave the table after that.
Great question. Yeah, and that colorful language, it's unprompted, but it's like, those are like that's kind of the goal.
That's how real people talk.
I just have a quick question about how do you decide which products go on shop? Our brand, we don't really have very many low ticket items. They're at least $250 or more a piece. And so I've seen on TikTok, it's really the easy buys, it's the 10, 50, $50 type of products. And I know Philips has a few higher end products. Do you have any of those higher end products on Shop, or is it mostly just the low ticket items on Shop? And how did you kind of navigate through that?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think the under 100 is kind of the sweet spot. I would say go tight initially. We picked out our hero products, and then we have additional products in the shop. They don't really sell extremely well. What sells is what we support from content creation, working with the affiliates, media behind it. So you could probably start small and see how it goes. We had some higher end Sonicare that was on there, and it took off. So it just depends, I think, on your product proposition and what about the product demands that price point, and how do you have affiliates speak to that? Because if it's selling at that price elsewhere, it should at least be able to get the traction of visibility on TikTok, and they may not buy it. They may not buy a higher priced product on TikTok. They may feel more comfortable buying it on Amazon or Costco or wherever. I don't know where your products are sold, but there is that level of comfort. I think that certainly, that's the way we looked at it too. We'd love to have the products sold on TikTok, but if they're sold elsewhere on any of our other channels, that's great as well.
I would try to do like what we've seen work for higher priced items is getting comfortable doing tight promo windows. So like people maybe have seen that, like to your point, it's hard to impulse buy something at that price, but maybe they've seen a couple videos and now you're hitting them with an offer. A comp for this on D2C would be like, okay, they've come to the site a couple times, you got their email, now you emailed them like a code for 25% off, and that's where you finally got the purchase. TikTok actually has pretty good mechanisms for that. For higher priced items, I think that's what we've seen work.
Got a question right here.
Yes, thank you. I was curious if you do get the viral video, so to speak, and you run out of stock everywhere. What do you do then? Obviously you can't sell anymore for a while, and you're going to try to restock as soon as you can. But can you shut the videos down, or does that happen automatically? What levers do you have to pull then?
You want me
Do
to
you
answer
want to answer
that? Sure. Don't do that. That'd be great. It's tough because it's not like the video gets deleted, right? And I do not know what TikTok's algorithm is, so this is like speculation for sure, a little bit, but like for sure the video is going to start being deprioritized when you go out of stock. So the distribution of that video will essentially go away, go to zero, because there's no monetization, and it's a bad experience for the user. Like they're going and clicking the link and they're like, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
So that's what will happen. I do think if that's happening at a high frequency, you mentioned this, kind of like the cold starting of that product is not super fun. At Pattern, we've kind of figured out a couple ways to do it quicker with some media, but it's not like trying to avoid that is your best friend. But that's functionally how it works for those videos.
Leading into it, we knew that we were going to have some issues. Just as I mentioned, nationally, we were selling really well, so we pulled back our media. So we didn't want to invest into sales that would have already happened organically. So that was the first step while we tried to get additional inventory in, and ultimately, I think that it was a ripple effect. But at the many efforts you can to not go out of stock is the best bet.
I mean, there are other brands that kind of run that as a strategy. It's like, we bought this much, we're just going to sell out, and it's almost like campaign based. I just think it's hard to run that type of business, but it's also a cool problem to have. That means you're doing great.
Just a question for maybe both of you. So we're in the pet supplement space, and TikTok is becoming one of our larger channels. And actually, a lot of the insights that you're sharing here, we're seeing. So anecdotally, it's good to see that confirmation. As we scale this channel, really interested on how either from a Philips or a Pattern standpoint, you guys are really operationalizing teams around the different components, whether it's being paid, the GMV max side of it, affiliates, content, et cetera.
I don't know, you go first.
There's a lot of close collaboration happening, specifically with the team at Pattern and my team. But then as we're talking about scaling and talking about 2026 planning, we're bringing our marketing team in more on the upfront planning process. Because I think that helps in kind of, as I spoke to, like, what is our bigger strategy? Because now we've got this new segment of a channel that wasn't there before. So as far as operationalizing it, I think that's probably more of where we're going to mature in this next wave. The inventory, the forecasting, I think that all of that comes in. What I'm excited about is really to start like adding that additional layer and doing some testing, and then be able to measure with Pattern's capabilities to really hopefully be able to understand that attribution model a little bit better. I mean, we've seen it directionally, but I think as far as scaling it, it's more of bringing Pattern in and TikTok in collectively to really look at your longer roadmap of product introductions and laying out the full year together.
Yeah, I think the collaboration piece is probably what I would point to as well. If some of my team just stand up in here really quick. So like the way we split up some of the team, I didn't see any of that, so I don't even know why I asked you to do that.
Sorry, I should have done it.
Yeah, I should have clapped, but it could have been anyone. I'm blind. We think about it as like shop operations. That's a core function that has to exist, and many brands just overlook the need for that because they kind of think of TikTok as like, oh, it's like TikTok ads, but it is a marketplace. So all the marketplace dynamics of running on a storefront have to be tight. There's like, SLAs related to shipping, customer service, responding, going back and forth potentially with documentation that they need. All of that actually is really critical, and it's especially critical in those first, basically those first 6 months. And a lot of brands just have no team that's doing that. Then you mentioned content. So we have an internal team that all they do is develop content for brands. They're running live streams. They're building out strategy. So I was like hoping some of those people are in here. Say hi to them if they are. Actually, they might be at the live
They're
booth.
probably doing lives right now.
So like go see them. That's all they're doing for brands. And like they're not managing the brands. They're just focused on content development and thinking about what to make. And then you have a whole team that's only doing affiliate, right? So reaching out to tens of thousands of creators all day long, responding to their messages, sending them product. That whole operation has to be going. Even if you kind of start to figure it out like we have, if we were to like turn that off, it would eventually catch up to us, right? So you always have to have kind of sometimes we call it like a BDR process, because it's like just cold DMing all these creators. And then you have to have a great media team, right? Like a team that knows how to efficiently spend media, that knows how to analyze, you mentioned GMV max, that has a good connection with TikTok. And then all of those teams need to be able to tie together with the brand and build out campaigns that will work with the promotions that TikTok is running. I would say that's like how we think about operationalizing it. I've yet to, I have seen like maybe 2 or 3 brands that do have a full team that's able to do that. But it's scrappy and it's pretty hard.
Yeah, I would just work up front as much as you can, because again, back to our experience, we normally allow about 3 months to get from the time we start working on content creation to when we really expect it to take off. So you just want to work that back in, and then layering on everything else that you're doing from a new product launch and activation, go-to-market strategy across all of your other channels. It's that upfront planning that I think is going to be the
We're
next
getting
step.
better at that.
We're getting better. So we're still working out the playbook, but I think that's what's going to be fun and exciting this next path.
Awesome.
Awesome. Karen, Trig, thank you so much.